And I was actually late to starting this podcast with you. I'm sorry, this is late by like 10 minutes because I was on the phone with uh, a friend I work with on Europe stuff, and we were talking about the Europe tour.
Hmm.
And and he's the one who came up with the idea of October, November, but he's still doubtful that that's even going to happen. So
Yeah, you can't, right?
yeah, you
Hard to
just can't
plan for
know.
it.
But like and like I love to talk about it because I think it's interesting, and I think folks might be interested to know how it affects musicians. But like I really don't mind, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
And you know this, we've toured so much, and I've sometimes struggled with how much we tour. So
Hmm.
for me, it's not an awful thing. And I mean, I love to tour, and I would choose to tour rather than to not tour.
Hmm.
But like anything in life, there are cons that go with the pros. And so now I'm just thankful. I'm telling myself every day, hey, these cons have always existed, and don't get ungrateful that you don't get these cons are now pros. You know, the pros
Yeah.
become cons, the cons have become pros. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I see you've been doing
Yeah.
some interesting things. You did you run? You like ran 2 miles in the rain last week.
Yeah. I exercise. I definitely stay active by exercising. And I'm I'm uh I like to I like to try unique things. I like to like ask questions of like why not. So there's a website for content creators that's typically pornographic in nature, and I've decided to recite poetry on that website. So people can subscribe and see, and I'll read poetry to those
Yeah.
people. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
So, yeah, and they can see some of that on your Twitter, which we're gonna put a link below too.
Yeah, man, just doing some silly like recreation. You know
I
what I
see
mean?
a guitar there too. And
Yeah,
just
I'm
for,
trying
yeah.
I'm trying to learn how to play a song by Bright Eyes called
Mm.
No One Would Write for Less. And for anyone who's watching and doesn't know this, I'm not a guitar player. I've
What do you
never
do, Garrett? What do you
been a
do?
musician. Uh I just yell, man. I it's
Yeah, I like
I
you term it as yell, not a scream. I feel like we used to have said we scream, but you yell. Hmm.
yeah, I yell and scream, you know, and uh
And
you
some of
know,
our listeners might be saying, "What's the
what's
difference?"
the distinction, right?
Yeah.
My quickest distinction would be yelling is when I'm yelling, like I'm yelling at someone across the street, and screaming can be as so controlled as to, you know, which was not as was as loud as talking. So, um, and most people would think it's like the other way around. You know what I mean? Like there's yelling, then there's screaming.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
in
It's
my
like
mind,
shrieking because it's kind of like shrieking.
yeah,
The
exactly. In
word
my
sounds
mind,
like that.
screaming or shrieking, yeah, is like is controlled. You
Bloody
know?
murder, but it's
Well,
like actually could be
you were
like bloody murder.
you were the first person I met when we were 19 that you knew how to scream in a controlled way. Um, you know,
Bring
and
Me
I
the
only knew how
Horizon.
to,
I kind
yeah,
of yeah from Ollie Sykes right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You knew how to scream in a controlled way, and after like a decade of doing this like uncontrollably, I've recently kind of learned how to do it controlled because it's cool to be able to like you know, just be able to do that
Yeah.
whenever you want.
And you
And
just do yeah.
the funny thing is I've learned it's when you do that, a microphone picks it up extremely hot. And the reason why is you're emitting these frequencies that the voice naturally can't emit. Fun fact.
Wow.
Um, so, like if you look at like the gigahertz, you can get an app. Forget what the app is. It might be on my phone. You can get an app that measures frequencies, which I mean, you can obviously do it better with a better microphone. So like you with if you had that on your computer with the microphone you're using right now,
Yeah.
Can people see video? Can people see you?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah. So if the microphone you have picks up obviously probably a better spread of frequencies
Yeah.
than a very, very, very condensed iPhone microphone or these headphones, getting plugged in to the computer. But long story short, folks might be interested in this. I don't know, maybe not. But when people like emit like a fry frequency, which a fry frequency is the basis of like all screaming,
Yeah.
and that's that's fry at its most fundamental.
Yep.
People in the audio, uh, people that work with the voice on a medical level call that pulse register.
Mm.
Um, and Melissa calls it fry, but because she says fry is basically when you take a pulse, uh, and so that's what we were doing when we were what you
Yeah.
knew how to do is you're taking pulse register and then you're finding your pelvic floor, you're finding your diaphragm, and you're
Mm.
pushing into it. So anyways, long story short, that is emitting a large spectrum of frequencies, more than even the best singer in the world can. Like an opera singer does not have as much frequency as someone who's just
Wow.
because there's this high pitched thing that's coming out of it.
Yep.
Even if you shape your mouth to try to sound like low, it's still high. Like the
Yeah.
frequency is actually still incredibly high.
Yeah.
And there's animals in nature that actually make the same thing. Chimpanzees actually do a
Mm.
very similar frequency. But the funny thing is, so Melissa, she's teaching me this and she's showing me this is why it works so well with live music, because when you do that, it's occupying a different frequency than the drums and the guitar. Whereas if
Yeah.
you hey, you're right there with the guitars.
Yep.
But when you
Yeah.
do that, you're sitting on top of the mix
Mm.
in a live mix, and so it's
Mm.
easier to mix. And the funny thing in all this is when she showed me the frequencies and she's holding up her phone, and she did a really like a really high whatever thing
Yeah.
in the
Yeah. Yeah.
microphone, right? But when she did this, the thing popped up as blender, because what the app does is it hears it and then it guesses like what it's listening to,
Mm.
and
It was, and it said
so it
blender.
said it's a blender. And it's blender is just about the highest pitch frequency I can think of.
Oh man,
When at least when it's blending like
yeah.
ice, it's
Yeah, mine's making a really low pitch right now. I think it's broken.
okay.
I put too many people kept telling me to get frozen bananas, and I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
whatever. But
it's
like,
true. It gets really low. If it gets huge, like there's a
eh,
lot of stuff, it gets
try and if you blend only frozen stuff, dude. If I have two like room temperature bananas, it blends everything. But I think my
yeah.
blender's from like the 80s. So.
Yeah, dude, I feel like I could be wrong, but I feel like blenders are probably like $30 right now. If they
Yeah,
haven't been
I
taken
should get
by
a
the
new
toilet paper crowd. If if
Oh, I
if
thought
the
about
if
that
if
actually.
the toilet paper apocalypse people haven't got their hands on all the
Dude,
blenders.
that's funny. I thought about that. I was like, what if I have to buy a blender?
How are you
But
doing on toilet paper?
dude, good. Dude, for
Okay.
whatever reason, I made a Target run like 3 days before stuff hit. And I just got a bunch of stuff. I don't know. So I'm kind of
Did
set.
you buy a bunch of stuff because you thought apocalypse was coming, or did you buy a bunch of stuff just because it was convenient?
It was just that time
Yeah.
of every 2 months or
Yeah.
whatever.
It was just a convenient time to go grab everything. Yeah.
It made sense finally.
That's
Yeah.
that's so funny. Yeah, it's
So I got lucky. I got real lucky.
I still haven't seen toilet paper.
I know. I know.
I mean, it's not like I look for it every day, but I've been to a Target a handful of times in the last like 3 weeks, and I have not seen toilet paper once.
I think employees get first dibs, and they should.
They
But
should.
but I can't imagine that toilet paper isn't being sent around.
Yeah, you would think that the toilet paper companies are.
This is our time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's only so much they can do, and
Mm.
I'm sure they're at max capacity because
Yeah.
I don't think they have any doubt that whatever toilet paper they make will be bought immediately.
I wonder how far that goes, like into the. I mean, it's paper, right? So, I mean, are we able to? We're still doing it with trees, I imagine, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
the source. It's like I wonder how
Yeah.
far that's gone. Like, cut down more trees. Like, has it gone
Yeah.
that far? You think?
Yeah, I wonder what the spread has been for the environment on this because sure, more toilet paper, more trees cut down, but at the same time, I don't know if you've seen, but like the air is like cleaner than it's ever been and stuff,
Yeah,
especially in
and like
countries like
Venice
China that are
canals.
major
Like,
polluters. Yeah, Venice canals,
yeah.
because yeah, it's like, and it's funny. It's like yeah, like we're letting the earth breathe.
Mm,
Like, don't get me wrong, like, I feel sad for everyone that's negatively affected by this, but there is a positive in all of it, you
mm.
know?